What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new video idea. It is the winter. I can't record outside. No World Cup friends, no making fun of players, no nothing right now because there's snow all over the ground and it's cold and it's wet and it's stupid. You're getting this. This is a Marvel tier list ranking video. I'm sure you've seen it before. It's a whole concept that brings up all sorts of debate. I'm going to be tier listing, ranking all the MCU movies, Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, warning, spoilers ahead, obviously. I have seen every single Marvel movie, MCU movie, except Hulk, which came out like 15 years ago and is not really part of the MCU. It is, but it's a different actor. It's a whole different thing. So yeah, let's jump into it. All right, so first movie. This is a completely random order. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So if you remember, this was about Peter trying to find his father, who abandoned him when he was a kid. His mom died of cancer, and his dad just left. His dad is a living planet, basically. He's a celestial. I think I like this movie. I thought it was pretty good. Guardians of the Galaxy is always really funny.
With a new captain, Taserface! I'm sorry. Your name is... It's Taserface? That's right.
Do you shoot tasers out of your face?
It's metaphorical!
I think it's a bit better than the first one. So I'm going to start off with Guardians in the B tier. So it's not quite a great movie. It's not quite a fantastic movie, which is the S tier. It's a solid MCU movie, about middling in the road of the rest. By the way, tiers, S, don't exactly know what it stands for, but those are the best movies. A, pretty good movies. B is solid. C is meh, and D is bad. All right. Next, we have Spiderman Homecoming. This is the first MCU Spider-Man movie of 3 that are supposed to come out. 2 have already come out. So this one was decent. I liked it. I thought it was really funny. I love Tom Holland. He did a really good job. I think a real life high school scenario is just a cool thing. And him just exploring his life as a new Spider-Man in the MCU.
You're the Spider-Man from YouTube.
I'm struggling whether to put it in a high B tier ahead of Guardians or a low A tier. I'm going to put it low A tier, so things should likely go in front of Spider-Man in the A tier. Next up, we have the second... Actually, no, we'll do the first Ant-Man movie first. The original Ant-Man, I would say better than the second one. I thought it was a really good movie overall. I mean, it was decent. Paul Rudd, who is an ex-convict, I forget which one he was in jail, maybe both. He just had like a pretty normal-ish life, sort of like a criminal. It was really funny. I actually liked Ant-Man series decently. I'm gonna put over Guardians, I think, B tier. Actually, no, I'll go below. It's another B tier movie, pretty good. Not exactly my favorite of the MCU, but I think it was a decent movie overall. And then second, Ant-Man and the Wasp, which wasn't as good as the first Ant-Man in my opinion. His girlfriend, technically, maybe by the end of his girlfriend, is the Wasp. Her and her dad, Hank, trying to rescue their mom, and they explore the entire realm of the quantum realm, which I thought was a really cool idea. But overall, it's just not as great as a movie. Was it really bad enough compared to the first to drop it to C? I think it was, yeah. High C tier, so kind of a mad movie. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Next, Avengers: Age of Ultron. Now this one was underwhelming.
Go, Steve, no pressure. Come on, Cap.
Nothing.
It was an Avengers movie, so I think it had high expectations coming out. You really can't go wrong with an Avengers movie, but I think it was underwhelming when it came out. It just sort of, it was tough. It was a tough pill to swallow, if that makes sense. You have the Avengers trying to save Sokovia from Ultron, this living AI robot that is really smart and sort of took control over Tony's whole industry, really. It was underwhelming. It wasn't good enough for an Avengers movie. The worst out of the 5 or 4, I don't even know. So I'm gonna go with C tier just because of the hype factor. The movie probably didn't live up to what it actually was. Next, Avengers Infinity War. 3 words. Best MCU movie. I don't care. This, automatic S tier. The best MCU movie there is. You could really say Infinity War because it was 3 hours long and really the only last half an hour mattered. But Infinity War was just an absolute masterpiece of a movie overall. You had great actors, just incorporating all of the MCU. The lines I thought were really good, just funny moments throughout. You just sort of had all of the MCU characters joining together to try to beat Thanos, and they couldn't. It was a setup movie, and it's the best setup movie I think there might have ever been. I think just it was action-packed, came down to the wire with Thor and Thanos at the end. The final battle was amazing to see Wakanda and all of the Avengers there. It had deaths, obviously, with Gamora. It had a loss that made the next movie the most gross film in history. So I think it has to be S tier. Next, we have Black Panther. Rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman, who sadly died of colon cancer. So that's really sad. So I think I'm going to have to put it in the S tier. I just think it was a really, really good movie. It had some humor to it, had great concepts with Wakanda and this hidden age and civilization ahead of its time. It gave really good background. I thought Michael B. Jordan was really good in it. He posed a good villain that was a really good threat to T'Challa. I'm just going to put it in S tier. I thought it was really good. Not as good as Infinity War, of course. Next, Captain America Civil War. Now, this was the best Marvel movie of all time, before Infinity War, before Endgame, before Black Panther. It was just an incredible movie overall, had a lot of action. I'm going to be putting it in S tier as well. Better than Black Panther, not as good as Infinity War. I think that's pretty unanimous right there. And yeah, I just thought it was a really good movie. You had the clash of the two sides to this idea, really, of government being in control or not of the Avengers. You had pretty much everybody except Thor there in Civil War. I mean, it was interesting. You see a little bit of conflict among the Avengers, and then you just had great fights, great battles. introduced Spider-Man, introduced Black Panther. I think it was a really good movie, and better than a lot of other movies, despite not even being an Avengers movie. Next, we have Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, this movie was pretty good, I'd say. The worst of the three Captain America movies. Definitely not as good as Civil War, and not as good as Winter Soldier, which we'll talk about next. I just think it was really cool to see the transformation of Captain Rogers, who, although I agree it's a pretty good storyline, but I didn't love the fact that Captain America was basically just given his powers. Like, he was just a normal dude and then just kind of became Captain America. But I think he definitely earned it and was a hard worker, and you saw that throughout the movie. So I'm going to be putting it, the decision is tough here because I think I want to go B tier. I'd say here. Yeah, that's fair. So basically middling B tier. And the next Captain America movie, which in my opinion is borderline S tier, definitely the highest A tier we'll have. So we're going to put A tier. The reason why, you just, again, incorporated so many people. You had Black Widow playing a big part. You had Bucky, the entire storyline of Bucky. It was just a great storyline with how Hydra, right, that's the phrase. Hail Hydra, where you have this hidden government operation. You had the time of the German Nazis leading up to modern day, where Captain America has to basically save the day. I just thought it was a really good movie overall. Now, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel in Infinity War in Endgame was one of the worst characters.
What, you gonna get another haircut?
Listen, Furface, I'm covering a lot of territory.
I just hated her. Her ego was so dumb and stupid. Her haircut was just ridiculous and ruined her character for me. I'm sorry, I'm not putting it in D tier, but it was an okay movie, you know. C, I'm gonna go high C tier, right? Ahead of all these because I thought it was a unique idea with Carol Danvers and her whole life, but it just wasn't. Actually, this movie was actually one of the most hyped movies because we knew about it from so far away from. Basically, you knew about it at the end of Infinity War with that clip, and then me and my friends were just hyping it up like, oh, it's gonna be such a cool movie. She's gonna be amazing, and it was decent. It wasn't awful. Could have been better. I don't 100% like her character. Oof, Doctor Strange. This one is a tough decision for me because it's either A or B. It's not S. It's not C. I'm going to leave it here for now. Doctor Strange, I think the storyline was really good, and the special effects and visual effects were amazing, with all this magic and wizardry, as Tony Stark would call it in Infinity War. I just thought it was really cool to see what Feige could do with his effects and his visual production there. And I feel like it was a great, good, solid movie overall. I thought that Cumberbatch's accent is not great, but I think it's a pretty good movie overall. I would put it in the high B tier. So highest B tier there is. We have not had a D tier movie, but believe me, we'll have a few. Next up is Guardians of the Galaxy 1, an introduction to the comedy of the MCU, with Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, as Peter, and then the rest of the crew that they meet, once enemies, now befriended. A really funny movie. You had them fighting against Ronan, and for the Power Stone, which incorporated the whole movie as Infinity Stone. I thought this movie was pretty good. It was really funny. Just a bit of a different vibe from other movies, but that's fine. I'm going to give it low B tier. I'll give it low B tier just because I thought it was decent, not as good as any of these. Worse than the first one, so about here makes sense. Avengers Endgame. The most hyped movie, I would say, of the MCU, and the most successful movie money-wise. You just had that year of between Infinity War, and then you had Captain Marvel, and then the biggest movie, Avengers Endgame. 3 hours long, unveiled crazy scenarios, crazy scenes. Because it's the most new movie and some people haven't seen it, I'm not going to go into detail about what it's about. But basically 3 hours to get everybody back. They had to just go and find the Infinity Stones throughout the past of Marvel MCU. They had to find the Infinity Stones. They had to bring them back. They had to snap everybody back. Crazy fight at the end. One of the probably the best fight scene in the history of movies. In a close race between Lord of the Rings, the third movie, Return of the King. Just had literally everybody you can think of in Marvel just there having one of the best scenes ever. But because it did really well in the theaters, it did really well among fans, but because it was 3 hours long and Captain Marvel's role in it and just how strong she was and how easily she took down Thanos, I just thought it wasn't as good as Infinity War or even Civil War. So because of how well it did, I'm going to put it in S tier. Third, basically, overall. Next, we have Iron Man 2. This is going to be the first D tier movie. Now, this movie, it's tough for me to remember here because it just... the next two Iron Man movies weren't great. They just sort of... I don't know, they were a bit too random. Not a lot of good vibes from it. I thought that it could have been the villain, what's his name? Ivan something or another. Smart dude, strong, made up his own suit of electricity or whatever, and fought Tony Stark throughout the movie. It just wasn't great, you know? I mean, compared to other movies, it just kind of felt like a filler, if that makes sense. I mean, it wasn't that funny. I mean, it had scenes of humor, but I didn't like the blonde hair guy who kind of was like in control of Ivan, but Ivan was way stronger than him in ways. I didn't like his character. I won't spend too much time on this, but I didn't think it was as good as other movies, so gotta be D tier. And then Iron Man 3 was better. The whole idea of, just this like re-spawning and coming back to life, really, this orange thing where you could get shot in the head and then you could wound and build yourself back together with this crazy technology and science, I think was pretty cool. The idea of it was nice. The villain who Tony Stark saw at a party 20 years before or whatever turns out to be the guy who's trying to take him down. Then you have Trevor, the biggest meme of the movie, who's really funny.
My name's Trevor Slattery.
I thought that was the good parts of it. The bad parts of it, just not a great storyline overall. I think it was better than Iron Man 2. Not a great Marvel movie. I'm going to put low. We'll go C tier right about there. And then the final Iron Man movie, the best of the three. Some people would argue the storyline is one of the best in the MCU. I would agree. Not as much action. Just a different movie, but pretty great, cutting edge for its time. Remember, this was made 10 years ago or something like that. So it was pretty old considerably for these other movies. But I thought the storyline was really good. The evolution of Tony Stark, who has everything and then has nothing in a split second. I'm going to put it... It's going to be B tier. Better than that, better than that, better than that. Avengers, the first Avengers movie. The coming together of all the major superheroes in the MCU. I thought it was an A tier movie, right? So I think it'd be pretty decent, high up there. Not quite as good as Winter Soldier or any other the S tier movies. So top 10, top 7 right now. And yeah, I thought it was a decent movie. The fight against Thanos' aliens, and a great movie overall. Now this one, Hulk, I have not seen. I don't really want to watch it. I mean, I guess I should, just to be educated upon it. I'm gonna do a little bit of a cheat here. Hulk, Rotten Tomatoes. So it's 2008. So The Incredible Hulk, 2008, 2 hours and 15 minutes long. 67% Rotten Tomatoes. Just these images here. It's just very different from what we saw, right? It was kind of a different actor, obviously. I mean, I thought it looks decent. It looks pretty different from... It's the first unofficial MCU movie. I guess it is sort of official, but I have not seen it. I'm gonna rate it C tier because I just haven't seen it, but I've heard it isn't great. It's just different, from what we know as the MCU. Next, a D tier movie, the first Thor movie. Hard to explain how this wasn't great. It just sort of was underwhelming. It just seemed a bit too easy for Thor. Just, going to Earth, meeting Jane Foster, and all of her Scientology friends. It's not a word. I thought it was not a great movie. Just not a great movie. And I guess we'll do Thor Dark World next, an even worse movie. The worst MCU movie there is. Now, relative to other movies, it's not as bad, but just for Marvel, just wasn't fantastic. It's hard for me to really explain why, because these movies are decent. Like I said, just not as good as other Marvel movies. I guess just because Loki and Odenheim, and how Loki in this movie was very, very in and out of being good and bad, in prison for a while, and then the Dark Elves were just kind of a mad villain. These people that are just dead and then just magically come back. The Ether, the Red Stone. What is the Red Stone? The Reality Stone. The Ether played a big part in it. Just had a different vibe. Just wasn't very good, Next, one of my personal favorites, Thor Ragnarok. Perhaps the funniest Marvel movie from start to finish. Thor Ragnarok. Chris Hemsworth did an amazing job in this. The whole idea of the forgotten world. Thor Ragnarok just had a very funny sense to it. A whole different weird feeling that made it pretty funny. You had the Hela, Thor's sister, come back as Odin dies, but not really. It was just really funny. You had Korg and Meek, my favorite guys.
Hey, take it easy, man. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Korg. I'm kind of like the leader in here. Over here, the pile of rocks waving at you. Here. Yeah, I'm actually a thing. I'm a being. This is my very good friend over here, Meek. He's an insect and has knives for hands. Made of rocks, as you can see, but don't let that intimidate you. You don't need to be afraid unless you're made of scissors. Just a little rock, paper, scissors joke for you. That I am. Oh, well, I tried to start a revolution, but didn't print enough pamphlets, so hardly anyone turned up. except for my mum and her boyfriend, who I hate.
And then we just had great supporting cast. Just, you know, Dez and Troy, together they destroy. Small stuff like that made it very funny. You had Valkyrie, who was a good character, and Hulk, obviously. I just thought overall an S tier movie. I'm gonna rate pretty high behind Civil War, just because of the humor aspects, a good plot, an overall S tier movie. And lastly, the most recent movie, for me, a pretty hard movie to rate. It just would have. So if you remember, Spiderman Homecoming, this is the first movie after the blip, the 5-year period. Incorporated a lot of why we liked Spider-Man Homecoming, but in my opinion added too much real world, or not enough real world stuff. He goes on his trip about his love life with chick's name, Zendaya, I forget her name, I'm bad with names. His life and his trip to Europe. He's far from home, but he's still fighting villains with Mysterio, who's not really a villain, he's just a fraud. I think this movie was alright. Certainly wasn't fantastic. Not quite C tier. Low. Yeah, we'll go low B tier. Alright. Please write in the comments anything you disagree with me. Again, this is my opinion, so you can't yell at me because it's just my opinion. I'm going to see if there's any rearrangements I'd like to make. I'm going to move Doctor Strange into low A tier just to balance things out a bit. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? S tier any movies, disagreements you have with me. Top 5. That'll be it for the video. Solid. See you next time. B tier, or A tier is good. B tier is solid. C tier is meh, and D tier is not good.